Hi, I'm Elle Rhodes, one of the co-directors of Brewing Change Collaborative. We're a nonprofit with a mission to foster diversity, equity, and inclusion for people of color in the brewing and beverage industry. We're so excited to be a part of this summit, and we hope that you'll join us as a number of our members gather together to talk about our challenges, struggles, and successes in relation to being BIPOC in the community. We also hope that you'll continue to follow us at Brewing Change Collaborative on Facebook and at Brewing Change MN on Instagram and Twitter. Hi, we are members of BCC, Brewing Change Collaborative, located in Minneapolis, St. Paul, Minnesota, in the US. We are an organization that's been around since the beginning-ish of 2019. We started out as just a group of about 10 people having a conversation about how we were isolated or the onlys or so few of us in the industry of beer or cider or wine or liquor or spirits or anything like that. So we started this organization. Now we've got upwards of 200 quote unquote members. We have around 30 attending members. We have monthly meetings and opportunities for our members to get together and kind of discuss our challenges, our successes, all the things that are happening in the industry around us. We all have varying levels of involvement in the industry. Some of us work in the industry, some of us don't, but we are all people of color. And that is the foundation of the organization. I'm Elle. I'm one of the co-founders of BCC. Obviously been around since the beginning, and I have been working in the industry for about 7 years. I have a background in beer and just recently made the switch to spirits. I'm the director of sales at Denord Craft Spirits in Minneapolis, which is the first Black-owned distillery in the country. And then next up to introduce will be Ramsey.
Hi, folks. I'm Ramsey, also a co-founder of BCC. I currently am a brewer at Modest Brewing Company here in Minneapolis. Excuse me. And I've been in the industry since 2009, 2010. So it's been a long journey. Started from the bottom. Now we're here, so to speak. I'm looking forward to sharing some of our experience with you all. And then, who's next? Anthony?
Anthony, you got to unmute.
Sorry, redo that. My name is Anthony Jennings. I am an OG member. Came aboard during a collaboration brew with Inbound, where my first job was in the industry. Been in the industry about 1.5 years. I now work and I do production at Prize. And whenever Arbiter opens, I will be bartending nights at Arbiter. So, yeah, I love this group.
Hey, I'm Allie, and I have been in the industry for about 2.5 years now. I jumped right in and became a sales rep for a couple of different breweries, but unfortunately, since COVID, my job really doesn't exist anymore. I now work in a liquor store called Stinson Wine, Beer, and Spirits in Minneapolis, and it's awesome, and I get to carry all the beers from where all my friends work, so that's pretty sweet. And I joined the Brewing Change Collab this year, earlier this year, pre-pandemic, but then the pandemic hit. And so most of my experiences with the BCC has been wearing masks and hanging out with the group. But it's been a really awesome time. And for the first time since I've joined this industry, I feel like I finally found the people that I belong to.
Hi, my name is Mahad. I am an OG founding member of the group, one of 10 people that showed up for the first ever meeting almost about a year and a half ago. Currently, I am the chairperson for the board, and I have been in the industry over 5 years now. Mostly in the craft beer industry now, but in the last 5 years, but I've been in the service industry for a long time. My current role right now, I work at Dual Citizen Brewing Company, director of Dual Purpose, the community outreach program, and I do production there as well. Want to just say hi to everyone who's watching in Brazil, and looking forward to sharing our experiences and what this group means to all of us here individually. I've been drinking since I was 7 years old. I think that's a question that we all miss, but.
Hi, my name is Shantae. I have been with BCC since earlier this summer. So I'm a newer member. I do not work in the industry as of today. I'm a budding enthusiast, and I'm excited to be here.
And I don't know if we're having technical difficulties, but Phil is another member that is on this chat, and he's an OG founding member. He does work in the industry in literally almost every place you could possibly find him. He's very involved and has been working behind the bar in most of our favorite breweries in the area, so he's quite involved as well, and he is newly appointed president of Outreach on our board. So we are so excited to be asked to be a part of this summit, this beer summit. We really look forward to when it gets to be held in person, because we would love to visit. Definitely have us back. Aside from that, we kind of, when we get together, ordinarily we wind up talking about things from any number of directions, but it all ends up being things that are important to us, things that are affecting us, things that are successes, things that are challenges, opportunities, all these other things. And so I thought that this opportunity right now to speak to all of you in Brazil and those listening and watching would be kind of just to have one of our normal conversations and just expressing who we are, expressing where we come from, our backgrounds a bit, and then letting you see a little bit of what this organization, but also what this family is doing that may or may not be similar to what is happening in your world over there. My first question for the group, I know when we started this organization, it was honestly out of just kind of a wondering of where the rest of us are. I know that I had been called a unicorn by someone else in the industry, because I was then the only Black person in Minnesota in beer, because Ramsey had already left to go to Michigan, and he was the other person. And it was brought to my attention that I was the only one. And at that moment, I kind of had this realization of either feeling like something was different with me or something was different with everybody else. And it felt like it was a struggle a little bit in that moment of realizing that I was so very different, that I was so into something that nobody else could relate to, that nobody else that looked like me related to. And not that I haven't been in that position plenty of times, but it felt like I was an odd person, like I was the oddity. And kind of the question for the group is, like, I'm sure being member of this organization that we've all felt that way. But when did that moment occur for you? Open.
For me, I think it was probably just, I think going to beer festivals, right? Which I think even for those of us who haven't been in the industry, but still have gone to beer festivals where you're not so much even in the herds of people that are in line before the festival opens, 2,000-3,000 depending on the beer festival, but also all the stands that you go to throughout, the people that are pouring the beer. I think that was the first thing that I've noticed, even outside of applying for a job for the first time, or 5 years ago. But yeah, that was, I think, my moment of like, holy shit, yeah, this is an industry full of Caucasian folks, a lot of white people.
Yeah.
I would say for me, I met up with BCC after drinking beer and just hanging out with people. For me, I noticed that just going to stores, liquor stores, asking about craft beer, and you get that look on people's faces like, oh, you drink craft beer, or going, I homebrewed for a couple years before. So, or going to like Midwest Brewery and asking about, classes and things like that, you get those weird looks from people who be like, oh, what do you know about it? Those are some of my first instances.
I would say for me, some of my first instances in the beer industry was just noticing how not only white dominated it is, but that it is also very male dominated. So oftentimes, like in the first 6 months of being in the industry for me was, having to like make a name for myself as a rep, and then also having to explain to others that I do know, the 4 ingredients of beer, and I do know, what I'm talking about. So what I noticed was a lot of like the injustices there, because obviously being, white indigenous, I had a different experience, but also faced a different kind of oppression. So that was the driving force initially for me.
For me, like I've been, Minnesota's, let's talk about craft beer, like is really late to the game when it comes to like laws and things like that. This industry didn't blow up here until 2011 because some laws changed and allowed breweries to have tap rooms. So that's kind of when the boom started. So like I got into it then, and just starting it at the bottom floor of it, it was definitely very white, and it still is. But for me, it was like a new experience altogether, making beer, drinking craft beer, so it took me a while to like realize the impacts of being the only, Black person of color that I could see for miles in the industry, and realize like how that affected me on a day to day. And, it kind of like, I realized it, and it still took me even more time to finally be like, need to do something about it, and that's about the point when I like started looking around, just like Elle said, when people would say like, oh, you're the only one, oh, but you should reach out to Ramsey, and it was like the same thing. It was, oh, you should reach out to Elle, and we like didn't know each other, and finally it was like, well, this is the only person I need to seek her out, and we need to do something. This is, I know, like before we met, I was like, there's no way she doesn't feel the same way I feel, like there's no way that another person of color, a Black woman in this industry, there's no way she doesn't feel lonely like I do. So if nothing else, at least we could be friends, But thankfully, like, we started this organization, now we have like so many beautiful people that we can like be in this together, so we're not so lonely anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. And we have said, I feel like literally every time we get together, sometime in the conversation, like in the hugs and all the other things, well, not right now, but we would have some conversation where it was like, I just love this family. Like it's a family as opposed to just an organization or just a community where we have meetings and sit down with one another. It's really, because obviously we are lonely in our industries, but also we all have a common thread to connect us on. So that has given us the ability to be able to connect on a level that is real and genuine, as opposed to like just acquaintances through our common work experience. We are a family, and we talk about the things that matter. We talk about the stuff that happens in our days and the stuff that happens in work, and you know, all of the things that, especially this year, and being in Minneapolis and St. Paul in this year, we have had life-changing and shaping moments this year, especially, that we have said multiple times, I'm not sure how we would have gotten through without each other. So I know that we're all thankful for this community and the family that we have, which is great. And honestly, every time somebody's like, I really wish I had a family or a group like this, you know, in Charlottesville, Virginia, or wherever, I feel really grateful and really thankful that we have it. I feel terrible that they don't, because I know what that feeling is.
That's definitely it. I mean, the mission and what the group was intended might have been what brought all of us together. But I think what kind of gets forgotten, I think, also is how a lot of us also have a lot of things in common that we do outside of the group at the end of the day, where, you know, whether it's Calvin and Phil that are biking all the time during the summers, whether it's hanging out with Anthony and just brewery hopping, you know, or going out and hiking with, you know, Nasreen and Arash at the end of the day. It's like, there are things that we all have in common with individually or as a group that we do at the end of the day. And I think that kind of really, I think, sealed our bond as a family at the end of the day, where it's more than just what brought us together about what we feel the industry or how the industry sees us or how the world sees us. But I think also building that bond on an individual level for all of us, I think, is what's so unique about our family.
Yeah, I agree with you, Mahad. It's funny because, yeah, it was beer that put us into the same space as each other, but what keeps us together in a sense is the fact that we just have such camaraderie with each other. We pulled the thread of the beer up. We unearthed that. We realized, oh, look, you know, against the big blanket of salt that conveys or that is laid over this industry, we dug up the black strings that are us, or the strings of color that are us. And then we kept pulling and figured out, yeah, you're right, man. I love to bike, and me and Calvin, we get busy on the bikes. We go brewery hopping with Anthony, and then we'll learn some stuff about how to brew from Ramsey. And it's funny. It's just like a continuous circle of learning and experiencing things with each other. And just every time we connect, that once a month that I so look forward to, we learn something new about somebody. We either have somebody new there that we exist, and it's like, you know, when we first started doing the meetings, it was, you know, El, Ramsey, Nazreen, and Mahad, and Calvin, a few other individuals, special individuals. We were like, yo, hold up, I didn't even know y'all existed. It's like we were in Greece, right? You know how all the islands are just scattered about in the Aegean Sea? Then we realized we just kind of looked up, we just got the tools to look like, oh man. So we just drew each other. We created a Pangea of people of color in this very white sea of, you know, just typicalness in the industry. And we decided to, and I just love that El and Ramsey and Nazreen had the the cognitive initiative to put something together, an organization. I gotta be real. Like it's a lot of times I sit, I'm like, man, why didn't I think of that? Like, that's crazy. Like, so it just makes me respect them even more for even thinking to put this together and having just the thought to wherewithal to even be like, yo, let's make something out of this. Cause I see where that's special. When you can find a vacuum in the industry and a hole somewhere, because people don't notice holes. They overlook them. They look at the land. You don't look at the hole. People fall in holes, right? You don't build something through the hole and create a foundation and what this is now, you know. And I'm just excited to see how it fleshes out in the future. Yeah, because you know, when I first came into the industry, it was yeah, buddy. Like I wasn't a unicorn, buddy. Everybody, I more so felt like, because the unicorn's white. I was that mole on the unicorn's shoulder. That's what I felt like. I felt like that's just that. that's what I felt like because the last time I checked, unicorns are white. So was the horn. And
that is just because of how somebody drew the unicorn, Phil. I'm sure if unicorns can be black or silver or whatever, it's your concept of the unicorn is.
I guarantee you, black unicorns are far more powerful than the white ones. And they're far more rare as well.
I believe
Harry Potter ain't even seen a black unicorn.
That's not true. Oh wait, those were different. Anyway, that's totally aside.
We're talking about the Thestrals.
Like there was the guys with that like half human, half horse.
Oh, those are like
centaurs.
Centaurs.
Yeah.
They have black ones of those.
Well, yeah, but we got
them.
Centaurs got 2 horns in our horses, but it's special. And I man, like it's funny. It's like it took me really up until like a month ago, on like 2 months maybe, to be like, yo, hold up. Hey Phil, if you're feeling lonely or something, or because this pandemic can get to you sometimes, and it was this week that I really first it really got abrasive. It really started to get abrasive on me. Like I'm Teflon. I can just let things slip off and go with the flow. But this week it got a little heavy for me, and I had to and I needed someone to talk to about it, and I was able to call on L to just to speak about it and just get whatever frustration or just whatever was going on in my head out off my mind. Just get it off my chest, and I felt comfortable enough to speak about these things with L, my fellow member, and that's special, man. Like not everybody has that, and I'm so thankful. Like we created something from what we lacked to something that we now have an abundance of now, and that others don't have, because it may be an industry dominated by people who look like each other and are of similar origin or upbringing, but I feel like what we have is what's been created here is greater than the sum of its parts. That's for sure. And it dawns on me every once in dawned on me like, yo, I can call on these folks and I can hit them up and just for some support. It's something crazy. I'm
so glad you did.
Thank you, and I thank you for taking the time to just listen. You know what I mean? I'll do that for anybody here. They just want to holler. Shit, if I answer the phone, give me a call. What's up? Say what's up. You need to talk? I'm here to talk. And it's just funny. It's just I find such relief when I come together with these guys. It's truly like it's like weight gets lifted on my shoulder when I get together with these folks. It's just like it's like a hug. We don't even got a hug to I feel the hug and the energy with all of us. It's crazy. If I had a tear to shed, I would have shed.
To piggyback on what Phil had just said, I also want to say is like I feel like I've never felt like the soapbox that I'm always standing on has ever been too much when I come to you guys. Whenever I'm like, hey, here's something that really grinds my gears, and then I'm in our group chat and I'm like, am I just crazy? And like literally, it's like within seconds, we've got somebody that's like, no, girl, you got this. I agree with you. And like to have that safe space, especially in this industry, is really important because it is our job, and a lot of us work in this industry. And so sometimes the even just being a woman and me even thinking that with like a white male ally, like somebody that I would regard as an ally, sometimes I'm going on and you can kind of see their eyes glaze over like it's too much, and it's never too much for you guys, which is awesome.
Yeah. I don't blame you. I don't know. I don't
Briefly,
know.
yeah. Nasreen joined us a little bit late. I want to introduce her, Nasreen, over there. Hey. Just give us a brief intro, who you are, what your role is in the organization, how long you've been around, your experience in the industry.
Well, my name is Nasreen. I am one of the founders and directors of Brewing Change Collaborative. It is probably one of the most important things I've ever done in my life. And one of the most fulfilling things I've ever done in my life. As soon as I see a BCC member, my heart is immediately full. And that is something I never expected, ever. So I'm so happy that this exists. I worked in the industry for 3 years. I have a small business called the Microbrewologist, and I do quality consulting for breweries and distilleries. And in February, it'll be 5 years that I've had that business. I did work for a brewery for a couple years full time as their quality manager. And now I am currently working towards getting my master's in teaching to teach. My focus is going to be alternative high school and teaching science to them. So focus is like making a safe space for BIPOC folks, similar to what we do in BCC, just an environment for people to be themselves and learn and grow and think without judgment.
So yeah, I know that we kind of like talked about some things that we wanted to talk about, and conversation has never been a problem for us, definitely, especially for this group in particular.
No, we all need to talk.
Yeah. So I know like some of you had questions that you posed that you kind of wanted to throw out. Anybody have one they want to shoot with?
What brought us to the beverage industry?
Specifically?
I guess I'll start since I didn't get an introduction.
Go ahead.
Well, I've been working in the industry, just the restaurant, the hospitality industry since it's been like 12 years now. That's crazy. But since I was like 16, old Timberline Steakhouse is not even open no more. Like, okay, we're in Brazil. Y'all do far better than we do here. I tell you that. Anywho, if y'all want to send some, Frangine up here, please. But anyways, I started doing working in the restaurant industry at like 16, and then I did that up until I worked at this bar. It was a craft beer bar, and that's when I really started like diving into craft beer. Like I kind of had I had a palate for it when I was younger because I got introduced to craft beer as a youngin', and when I was just a little dude, not like crazy young, but just a baby face Philip. And from there, I just kind of acquired a palate for unique beers. And once I started working at this bar, I really grew into it, and I became the go-to guy for just telling guests and guiding them on what they should drink. And just dawned on me one day, like, why don't I go ahead and slide into one of these breweries? I see these guys coming up here hustling, slanging the beer out, trying to slang the craft beer from wherever brewery they're at. And I chose to, I slid in a beer tender position at a brewery, and that's like 4 or 5 years ago now. That's crazy to me. It's time's flying. So I did that for a while, and so that's kind of what got me inside of the beer industry itself. Was just out of sheer curiosity and just love for just delicious flavors made out of water, hops, grain, and malt. So from that point on, I just became, I continue to grow as in to where I am now.
And yeast. You forgot the yeast.
Oh, I did miss yeast.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeast. Yes, sir, yeast.
So what got me in liking craft beer, man, I'm dating myself here, but it was like 2002. Went to a liquor store, and I liked more whiskey more than I like beer. But I was like, you know what? All my friends drink this crappy beer, and I want to try something different. So I asked the guy the thing, what's some good local beer? And he pointed me to Premium That was my introduction. Premium Granger was my introduction to craft beer.
Go preview.
So I mean, just drinking that first one was local brand. It was pretty cool, you know, because I've always seen growing up here. I always seen that grain belt sign that used to be over the Hennepin Bridge. So drinking that, I was like, ooh, this is different, but it's cool. And then getting an appreciation for it, but really like finding out none of my friends liked beer like I liked beer. Like, ooh, what is in it? What makes it taste like that? What you know, which led me to go into Midwest what is it? Midwest. Is it Midwest brewery or brewery, whatever it is? I can't remember the name right now.
Midwest Supplies.
Midwest Homebrew
Yes, Midwest Supplies.
Yeah.
You guys are what I'm talking about. Went and bought a kit, a beer making kit, you know. And at the time, this is the first one I bought a kit. Because I bought 3 kits over my lifetime. But the first one, because I was really in the red stripe, like 2000 and I don't know, what was it? I said 2001. So that was like 2003. I started experimenting, trying to do the beer kits like you buy. Remember the first one I did was like a red stripe because that was my beer at the time. And I was like, ooh, you know, got into it a little bit, played around with it, and found that I had a love for craft beer. And, you know, like I said, you go to a liquor store and you're like, hey, what's local, what's hoppy, or what's this, or what's that, or what's a good stout? And you kind of get with those looks of like, whoa, I didn't know you knew what actual good beer is. Because you just used to people think you drink MGD or Corona or
45,
any other American type, just big belt beer. And for me, that was like water to me. It didn't do anything for me. Didn't quench my thirst. I felt like it was wasting money. So that was my introduction into craft.
I can relate to that because I've been asked multiple times, like, how did you get here? And it always has that little tinge of like, why are you here? You look nothing like anybody else that's here. So I've been asked that question a lot, and sometimes with shade on it, and sometimes with like genuine just asking. But I feel like the same thing. Like I used to hang out with one of my best friends, and whenever we hung out, it was like belly up to a bar. We get to know our bartenders, hang out, and you watch like tap handles change in front of you. And instead of it just being premiums and Miller Lights like that, you see like clown shoes and all. Like this is like the beginning of craft. So like Minnesota didn't really have its own craft yet. So we were getting craft from everywhere else, right? So we got all this stuff from all these different markets, and some of the stuff you don't even see anymore. Some of it doesn't exist anymore. But you know, you watch this thing come through, and my best friend is still to this day a hophead. Like he was way in like the hoppier the better. Not necessarily, and this was like before Imperial IPA, so it was just like, I don't know, like size 7 steel toes. Like, you know, it's hop forward.
Mm-hmm.
Two-hearted.
Yeah, like a two-hearted situation. It wasn't like, oh my God. It was just, you know, hoppy for most normal people. And I'm like, am I gonna like that? And he'd be like, no. And I'd be like, let me try it anyway. And I totally wouldn't. I'd hate it every single time. But then I'd find like a Belgian, or like, I love this. This is amazing. Or I'd found a brown ale, or I'd find a Hefeweizen or something like that. And I'm like, what is the difference about what is in your glass than what is in my glass? And they're both beer. It can't be that different. And then because of that and how my mind works, it's just like, I'm going to figure this out. So just like dove in and all the way in. Like I got way into it. And the community at that time was pretty great. Like it was pretty open because nobody knew anything. We were all new to it. There weren't like the beer geeks hadn't shown up yet. And they weren't being real rude about anything. Like everybody wanted to share information. Everybody's like, oh my gosh, this beer, blah, blah, blah. And there were conversations and there were groups and there was, you know, talks and it was an open industry. It was a friendly industry. So at that point, that's kind of what got me into it. And then, you know, people tell me I can have strangers and I can have friends, but they don't stay in one category for long. So and that's how I got into sales. Like I'm talking to all these people about it anyway. And then I just love it. Like I love that side of the world. But the industry has changed for sure. And the reception of people in the industry has changed, both positively and negatively. Like I've seen, you know, an evolution in what the industry started as, like where nobody knew anything, everybody was just cool and friendly, hanging out in some garage or some beat down quote unquote tap room. And now, you know, there's the beer geeks and the experts and the people who feel like they own the industry, and that, you know, changes a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's also where we come into, you know, a good number of our conversations, because it kind of like Phil's qualifying like a unicorn is white. Like the conception that the craft beer drinker is white, or the craft beer drinker is the bearded white guy, is a lot of why we exist in this group right here, because clearly that's not true. We, at least everybody in this group, knows like hashtag Black people love beer, brown people love beer, and Black girls drink beer too. And like that entire initiative, it's built off of the conception that this category is for this group of people and that you are not interested in this. It's like Anthony saying like, oh, you like craft beer. Like, why is that the perception? Why is that an exclusive situation?
They're not one and the same. Bearded white guys and craft beer are not one and the same. That is not the truth. We're talking to folks in Brazil. That ain't the truth.
Absolutely. I definitely feel that way as a Black woman and a non-industry participant, that like being interested in the industry and like having a love for craft beer, sorry about my background noise, but having a love for it makes you feel definitely like you're like one of one, and that's not always true. And so that's why I'm kind of grateful that I've found such a lovely group of people to identify with, because I don't really have friends, right, that I can like bring to a brewery and they're gonna be like, oh yeah, like let's go. Like, you know, there's only so many people that I can really like have that type of vibe with. So it's nice to,
friends.
yeah, definitely. And also like I had a very positive experience like when I started like going to breweries, like from like a service standpoint, like I was actually like very comfortable. I felt very safe. Whereas in a lot of other spaces, I don't feel that way no matter where I am as a Black woman. So that kept me engaged.
That is a good point. I don't think we talk a lot about that. Like, craft breweries are all small businesses, and there is that whole, although we do deal with racism and stuff, there is also that personability that's there that a lot of places don't have. And when you do end up a good bartender, it can be a totally different experience for you. And that I feel like is actually more common in the brewing industry than it is in other industries, or in other like places where they serve alcohol anyway, that I've experienced personally. I feel more welcome, even though I don't always feel welcome. I've had more positive experiences at breweries than I have at bars or clubs or something else, somewhere else where they're serving alcohol.
Yeah, I know we had kind of discussed like what is different about our local beer scene or beer community than perhaps other places. I know that in dealing with the realization that I was the only one that I knew who looked like me that was interested in this industry, that it like hit hard, but in a slightly negative way, feeling very like alone. And then that is when I found out about Afro Beer Chick, or I found out about Dr. J, who is the beer, ambassador for the Brewers Association, or when I found out about Crowns and Hops, or that is what caused me to do the search of like, am I literally the only Black person in America who cares about craft beer? And as it turns out, no. And at that point was like, all right, I'm not the only one anywhere. I'm just the only one in Minnesota. And that's a lot, but I'll figure it out. And that all of that circled back to
that bar used to work.
All of that finding out like back to, you know, this, we found our way back to this because like partly of my revelation of that, partly because of Ramsey coming back and being like, I'm not going to be alone this time, partly because of Nasreen being like, no, this is something real. Now that we have other people, we have to do something with it. So I know that at that time, though, I was, looking into other industries, or not industries, but other markets, and realizing like my experience in beer is very different than somebody else's experience in beer on the East Coast or in the South or even in Chicago. My experience, though, I think I handle adversity perhaps differently than some people do. And it's generally not, I don't get a whole lot of forward-facing racism. Like it could be microaggressions, or it could be, snide comments behind my back, or things that, I don't even know about. But there are definitely markets and cities and communities where that is a forward-facing racism and barrier that I'm not experiencing. And so that was hard too. So I was like, why is this so difficult? Why would somebody create something that is clearly meant to bring people together and make it something that you are also keeping a whole people group out of? So it doesn't make sense to me. Obviously, it doesn't make sense to me because it's not logical. But I do remember in that moment being like, I think Minnesota, at least at that time, was an easier place to be a person of color in this industry. Also because white people in general are scared of being called out as racist. So I think that they are at least more apt here to be like, oh no, you're welcome to. It's fine. They may not mean it, but they would at least say it.
That's that Minnesota nice working out in your favor.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. I think, the reason, we talk about the differences like between markets, Minnesota versus New York or LA or anywhere else really, there's a lot of things involved, like going back to, our Minnesota, like craft beer industry is young compared to a lot of other cities, so there's that. So it's like, before 2011, like it wasn't even on most people's radar, black or white, and now that it is, naturally, like most things, the folks that have the means jump on it and take the opportunities, whereas people of color, we don't have the same resources, and we are like, here we are, 10 years later, 11 years later, trying to like make something happen, which I wish, 10 years ago when I got into this industry, I had the foresight or money to like try to do what all these other breweries are doing now back then. But anyway, but like you look at a different market like LA, it's probably the same thing, but at least like, I can only imagine like black folks or BIPOC folks out there in New York and places like that, probably had they could see the craft beer industry because it was happening around them. Whether it was welcoming or not, that's a whole nother thing, which it probably wasn't. But at least like, it was maybe on someone's radar, and now, like the same thing, like, I remember when we got together, it's like, it can't be just us. And then start looking outwards and seeing like there are all these other people that we didn't even know existed doing this for already years before we even like discovered them, right? So, they've been like craft beer fans and home brewers and things like that, whereas like we're like kind of late to the game. So that's not like a slight, it's just like kind of the reality. And now, we're trying to make up ground in a big way, trying to, open our own spaces, create groups like BCC to like bring each other together so we feel emboldened and have the support of each other and each other's resources to make this, this industry even better than it is, currently. Yeah, I just think, some of the differences are, some things are very much the same, a lot of it, like a lot of the, you can't erase trauma that affects all BIPOC people, no matter how built up your market is, you know, that still is like a common factor across state and cities and all that. So like that's the thing that we all have to still fight through to get and try to make any progress in this industry, you know. So that's one thing that's common, but a lot of differences are just like how advanced or how, you know, far forward other industries are in different cities. At least that's how I see it.
No, I think, yeah, you're absolutely right. And to Al's point as well, like it may or may not be, again, in certain situations that in your face, you know, outright hatred. But I think some of the microaggressions that happen are just as horrendous in a lot of ways at the end of the day. Especially I think when some of it kind of gets turned around. So like if, and I think we were talking about this at our last meeting, where if one of us brought something up in a certain situation, the owners or the people that story was brought up with kind of at times will turn it around and all of a sudden in a manipulative and gaslighting way at the end of the day, all of a sudden make it about the person that brought this up rather than fixing what the issue is at the end of the day. And I think that is just as harmful as, you know, if you just outright came out and said what your intentions are.
Right. And like, I know that we've talked about this in other ways, but the weight of those incidents is carried by the victim, not the oppressor. So like, for instance, how long did it take me to realize that for things that had happened to me in this industry years ago were not actually based on me or because of me. It was because of this and that, you know, discrimination or whatever else. It wasn't me. And though I was, you know, definitely there was gaslighting in that situation to make it spun to, you know, be in my head like, oh, I did something. But hindsight, I'm like, no, that's totally not what happened. That's not the light that actually occurred. And so, and this is like me in this industry and like the length of time I've been here, me as like a director of this organization, and still that late having that realization, I'm like, wait, this was totally messed up to begin with. That's something that I feel like terrible that other people would still be walking around carrying that weight, still be walking around living in that thought. Like how many people have been ostracized and shunned from the community or the industry because of that experience. So, you know, that's another reason that this is helpful. Like since the beginning of BCC, we've had, I don't know how many different members and people kind of speak out about this or that experience, and you know, and we all, I feel like everybody has come to it with like, this is what happened, am I overreacting? Like we always think first, like, am I overreacting about this, or is this me and my perception of it, am I wrong, as opposed to, no, this happened, this was messed up. And that's why I think another benefit of this organization is to back each other up on things like that, because clearly they're happening all the time, but also because instead of us walking around carrying that weight of, you know, this incident happened, maybe it was my fault, maybe it was me, because I feel like we do that on our own daily basis, walking around thinking like we have to step back from our own power and our own positions. Having this and being able to support each other and be like, no, that's messed up, is helpful for our sanity, helpful for our self-confidence, helpful for our careers, because that could easily any moment, one of the many things that somebody brought up over the last year last couple of months, whatever, could have been a career ender or something that if we had not had the support of one another, could have definitely put us in a position.
It definitely reminds me of a quote, and I know I'm gonna get it wrong, but I'm sure everybody knows the quote. But the double consciousness, W.E.B. Du Bois. You know, you're American, but you're also Black. You know what I'm saying? And it's a double consciousness. Like, hold on, did they just slight me? Did they just come at me really jacked up in a way that, like you just said, it makes me question my own thoughts, those microaggressions, how I present myself. And you're like, having this group of people, having this group of friends of like-minded familial connections lets us know that no, that stuff is messed up. It shouldn't have happened, and you don't have to carry that.
Right.
You know, that, to piggyback off of that, I find that funny because because you will feel like you're crazy when you just question, why am I getting treated this way? Or why am I the one under the scrutiny? Or any reason of that nature. Like I did it just as good as him, if not better, but I'm still the one who's on the magnifying glass, or I'm still the one getting treated differently or not fairly. And it's almost blatant, but yet the person who's doing it, this is real experiences for me. I've literally felt like, man, am I going insane? I had to ask people. This is before BCC, so I didn't really have y'all to. It was just like you, the late, like, be like, bing, like, oh, it's because I'm Black. It is because of who I am. You know,
Terrible.
it really is. I find it funny because I find myself relating to those songs where people will be cool with you, but in reality, they'll be your competition. They're competing against you. You don't even know it. They're threatened by you because of how naturally good at your job you are, with little effort on your end, but they try so hard, yet they still don't even measure up to you. But because they are who they are in this industry, or the color they are, they get to be placed in these positions, and they get put in these positions of power. And now all of a sudden you're getting these vindictive actions getting placed against you, and you're trying to figure out why. Like, what do you mean? I have, like, you think you're crazy, but you're not. And you know, I'm thankful for you guys, because I probably would have still went around tearing my hair up thinking I'm crazy. That leads me to one of my questions. As POCs, how do we deal with the subconscious bias when it comes to confrontation or things of that nature? Just how you choose to react to certain things, or not react, or just how you choose to maneuver that chicane of just knowing, especially nowadays, knowing that, or even in the past, of just like how you get treated based off of your wording, your diction, your rhetoric and whatnot. Like, how do you do that? How do you choose to maneuver that? I know me personally, what I've learned, especially from my uncle, he always taught me, he, rather than crying about it or getting mad and giving them the negative reaction that they expect you to have, is to instead smarten up and beat them at their own game. And so for me, it taught me to get a little crafty. All right, cool. So we're gonna do the passive aggressive stuff. Cool, I can be good at that. So I utilize that to passive aggressively make myself, just put myself in positions to where I'm not the one. I'm not getting. Just place myself in an opportunity to win. So if I gotta use their tools that they have been using against me, I'm gonna use it against them and beat them at their own game. That's on some in the community, especially in the Black community. It's a negative thing. It's a very negative thing. Like this, man, that was passive as hell. You get that all the time. But a lot of times, especially when it comes to your livelihood and your job and in the career field you love, you're gonna go ahead and do what you got to do to make sure that you're still employed. You're still moving forward, and you're still growing in a positive direction. So for me, all right, cool. This is the weapon. All right, cool. I'm gonna learn how to use it, and that's me personally. But what does everybody else choose? What are the tools in your arsenal?
Well, I feel like, just based on how much we all have each other's backs, that we can get vocal and we can get mad about it. because we have a whole team of people. What did Al say? 200 members, 30 active members, like, you know, so no matter what, I feel like if whoever, and this just, I mean, goes for everybody, especially those working in this industry, we can say, look, this isn't right, and then have a whole team of people backing us up and believing each other and supporting each other through it. So I think just having each other to be able to like kind of fall back on, and again, have those conversations when we're faced with adversity in our workplaces, especially. And then like, so I guess like the tools in a way, not to call you guys tools, but is to like kind of go to you guys and be like, well, that's not correct, right? And then have everybody kind of bring forth their own ideas of like how to fix a situation.
Social media.
Yeah.
You use the tools you have today. Like social media is great in this regard. Somebody do something messed up, like you got the receipts, man. People text, people post, you got the receipts. That's the one thing we have up on our ancestors. We got social media. We've seen it with George Floyd. You know, folks say stupid stuff, or get caught doing like Karen in the park. You know what I'm saying? Calling police on black folks for no reason. Use the technology to your advantage nowadays. I in my younger day, I used to bite my tongue, and you know, when I was in my 20s, and just like, nah, I'm not gonna ruffle feathers. In my 40s, not at all. I'm ruffling feathers, fam, because I'll be excuse my language. I'll be damned if my sons go through this. You know what I'm saying? I'm ruffling feathers anywhere I go. Even if it hurts me to do so sometimes. You know what I'm saying? Because you can have people who think they're doing the right thing, or who feel they're doing the right thing, but have no clue. Who have no clue what they're doing is hurting other people. Their decision making is affecting other people because they live under a certain mindset, or they're in a certain skin, and they don't have things to worry about. They don't see some of the things that people of color or BIPOC people go through. So it's unclear to them. But always, for me, use your voice, man. Use your platforms.
I mean, on that, like, how many people this year, how many times do you think you've had to educate somebody on what white privilege meant? They don't generally know that they don't generally know that they're walking around with it. So it is sadly our burden to, you know, be exposing that for people, but for everybody in all of Minnesota to find like white privilege, never heard of it. What is that? Like, is that a new restaurant or something? I don't know. But it's like how many times have we had that conversation? I think for me personally, I think this launches, and I know we had talked earlier about code switching. Like, I think I was brought up by a father who grew up in the city of Philly, and he was the only one of his high school friends who made it to adulthood. So, you know, early on hearing from him, like, this is how you're going to be, and this is how they perceive you, and this is who you are. And, you know, having that in my head of like, this is how you will not be. You will not represent this family as this, and you will be this. And that was always like a positive. It was always an encouragement. Like, you are not going to be at the bottom of anything, but you also have to own what that means for you to get there, because there's always going to be a challenge for you to be perceived how you should be perceived. So I probably was brought up to code switch, and to be able to present myself as an educated Black woman, like in high school when somebody was like, why don't you speak Black? I'm like, what? And would launch into a whole thing that very, very triggering. Very triggering.
I still don't know what speaking Black is to this day.
Oh my God. The amount of times I had that conversation in high school alone, it was a lot. And also I always got my point across, and nobody ever walked away unscathed, for sure. But, you know, I've been brought up to be able to speak and sound educated and be able to lay down what exactly I mean with the words, which is why I I've been able to articulate things in a heated way without necessarily going to like a place where people just tone you out or tune you out because they don't hear you anymore. Like I'm still speaking their language, but able to like convey it in a way that indicates what I want, what I need, and my frustration or feeling in that moment. And that is definitely code switching. That is definitely like something that it has dual perception, because like I shouldn't have to do that. I should be able to speak in whatever way I want to and have my words be heard and be respected regardless of how I say it. But because my dad, knowing the experience that he had, was like, no, we're not, you're just gonna cut this. This is who you are for this instance. And so I've probably become better at code switching than I probably ever knew that I could be, or even before I knew what it was. I was like, oh, that's totally what I do. I walk into a space and, you know, make myself palatable for the group of people that are there.
I got
I think.
Go ahead.
No, I was gonna. I think when I moved here from New York, you know, I think the nice way people would kind of comment on my proper English would be, you know, oh, you don't have, what's your New York accent? What people would say. And I'm like, what does that even mean? Like, am I supposed to sound like, what's a New York accent? Like Jerry Seinfeld? I don't know what that means. Like, what am I supposed to
Fran
sound
Drescher.
like?
They wanted you to sound
You know,
like Fran
Drescher, like
Jay-Z.
King of Queens.
You
Like,
crazy?
I don't know. You know, but like
Queen's accent.
the Queen's accent. But, you know, I want to, you know, like code switching was also a huge thing for me. And, you know, being in this industry for so long and like being also a unicorn, like I code switched in a way that, you know, it was just only person I had to really protect was myself, right? Like, you know, not working with any other people of color at all for so many years, you know, like when things happen, like only person I really had to worry about was me. And then not until recently, you know, that changed and that like brought about a whole new mindset, you know, and like when things happen, then it wasn't just affecting me. It's affecting the other BIPOC people around me, and definitely changed some of my thinking and decision making, you know, which can be like one, you know, to break yourself out of that mode of like, you know, realizing like you're not the only one that you have to worry about anymore, you know, and then getting to the point where it's like, all right, now you have to like act to protect the people around you, you know, even if it's gonna hurt you, you know, financially, whatever, you know, and I mean, it's definitely worth it, the thing to do for me anyway. But you know, code switching became, in a sense, like more powerful because now I can like, you know, navigate through this industry and now say like, you know, get along day to day, but when shit happens, then it's like, all right, we're gonna put that switch, and then you're gonna hear my real New York accent. We're gonna talk, and you know, like I might just blow some shit up, like for real. You know, like it's not gonna be good. You know, we talked about at our last meeting. You know, we were talking about astrology and like our signs, and like I'm a Scorpio, so I don't know how big this is in Portugal or in Brazil. Excuse me. They speak Portuguese in Brazil. That's why I said that. So I know.
We knew.
Anyway, you know, like I realized, you know, I mean, I know I've had this fire in me, but in the last year, I've like had to like, you know, unleash it in a way that, you know, was subtle but damaging to other people who wronged me and the people around me. And like, I think now where I sit, you know, I look back and I'm like, you know, it was all worth it. And my life is different, but it's not worse, you know, Like my situation is not as, like I don't have this as good, I mean, I love my job now. You know, I love brewing, I love making beer. So this is like the thing that I trying to hold on to with dear life. But also I'm trying to do everything I can to bring other people like me, BIPOC folks in the industry so they can like, you know, if, like enjoy the fruits of this thing that we all love, you know. Like no matter who we are, we all, for whatever reason, love this industry. And we love beer and we love spirits and we love cider and wine and all that and making it and selling it and whatever that may be. But the, you know, what's lacking is like the representation of people of color. And like it's like I've realized like the way we're gonna get to it is by just blowing shit up. Like it can't be, things can't be what they were, you know, pre-pandemic, whatever, for us to actually like have a seat at the table. Like it's gotta be, things gotta change in a big way.
We have to own the table.
So, exactly, for
Make
real.
our own table.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I got a question. You made me think of Elle and Ramsey, both of you. And I never thought of this, and it just came to me after hearing both of you talk. How do you think BIPOC people of color are perceived as it comes to men and women when it comes to like a grievance or a slight? Like, I know for me as a Black man, when I get slighted, especially by white people in the industry, I kind of don't really say nothing too much to a degree because I don't want to be, I'm already fearful of being labeled the angry Black man.
Mm-hmm.
So then you feel the slight or grievance, and then you bring it up, and then you get those things. So, and I know Black men and Black women, we feel it from different sides. So what do you think? How do you think when we're displaying or talking to people who are saying some weird things or doing untoward things, how do you think we're received differently? And is it easier for one side or the other? I know it's hard for both, but just a question, I thought.
I think that the mad, Black, angry Black woman thing is both real and the perception. But usually, at least in Minnesota, I feel like people try not to invoke it pretty diligently. I feel like, you know, the perception of like, especially this year, the perception of a Black man is like he's dangerous or that he's a threat or that he's intimidating or he's, you know, incapable or all of the stupid, ridiculous discrimination and stereotypes and things that are not true. That is the cloud that is painted around a Black man. But the Black woman is, there are lots of things, but specifically pertaining to attitude, I feel like there is a fear there as well. But there's also, it's less of a life-threatening fear and more of like I don't want this time bomb to explode kind of fear. And so I feel like I think a lot of people placate or try to do passive aggressive things, or, you know, the microaggressions are present there because they're trying to like manipulate and gaslight you while also not making this a public, like I'm calling the manager kind of experience for them. So I feel like I'm, to my advantage, I feel like people try not to invoke the response that I think they're expecting in a certain situation, which is definitely like, it's not true. Like if something goes bad, I will explode. I will be mad and I will be vocal about it, and there will be like eyes and ears and the things will happen if it's that bad. But I'm not irrational either. It's not like I'm just like exploding wherever I go because I feel like it. Like if some wrong is done to me or to my child or to like any one of you, I will responsibly explode. and that's how I feel. Like it plays to my advantage because like, yes, you should be scared, basically. Like, yes, you should be scared. It's how that is for me. Ramsey Mahad.
Yeah, no, I think you're right, and that might be again probably another reason why I think the code switching happens right at the end of the day. It's a mode of survival for us at the end of the day, depending on the situation you're in, which is it's the only thing that to get back to. But I think what a lot of those folks don't realize is the constant checking that we're doing with that, right? It only adds on to the multiple layers of the traumas that we're already are dealing with at the end of the day. And unfortunately, the abusers and those in power then at the end of the day still get to be in their positions of power without having to check themselves on the other end. So they remain wherever they were, but you're left with all of the other shit at the end of the day.
Right. But that is one thing. Oh, I'm sorry, Ramsey, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, I mean, it's those labels of like the angry black woman and the dangerous black man are just tools used to like paint us in this picture where if you label us that way, then it gives them they have carte blanche to say and do whatever they want, because anything that they say and do towards us is because they're trying to combat the angry black man or the dangerous black man and the angry black woman or person of color, or, you know what I'm saying? But they're just tools and they're being used in that way to like weaken us,
Yeah,
and
it's also
not based on any facts. It's not based on any facts and I don't want to, I don't even know. Yeah. I'm sure there are people out there that they see me on the street and they like, oh, that dude's gonna kill me. But y'all know, that's like the furthest thing from the truth, right? So, it's just a tool, and then then those things are ingrained in non-BIPOC's brains and psyches, and then they approach us in that way, oftentimes from the jump without knowing us, and then that we have things that happen like with George Floyd and like a many number of black men and women and BIPOC men and women, those things happen because of those labels. Something as simple as a label is getting people killed in the streets.
Right. And I was gonna say, it's like that those labels are essentially a jail cell. Like it's their ability to keep us in the zoo, in our cage.
And then we know,
they're dangerous, keep them behind that way.
Right. And we know, we step out of our doors every day knowing that people think of us that way. So we have to, we're like code switching and doing all these things to just make it from A to B, get from home to work in the grocery store and back again, safely.
Bible.
Our parents, I'm sure, we probably all had this conversation, but my dad sitting me down right before I got my driver's license and if you ever get pulled over by the police, this is what you do. And I remember hearing that and thinking that was I went to high school. My high school in New York was very diverse in a real way. And I remember my dad having that conversation with me, Ramsey, if you ever get pulled over by the police, you be respectful, you keep your hands in front of you, don't make any moves, don't be disrespectful, blah, blah, blah. I remember thinking that was a conversation that everybody experienced, black, white, whatever. I thought everybody's trans was because my dad, he didn't specify that. He wasn't you're black, so this is why you need to act. He just said it you know, because I don't, whatever. But I just thought that was something that everyone experienced. And like, come to find out, I mean, not too long thereafter, you know, I was a teenager talking to my friends, some of my white friends, like, oh, you know, like, or driving in cars with white people and they acting wild and doing the things that I wouldn't do because I was told otherwise, and realizing like, oh, our lives are so different. Like, you have this privilege that I do not have. I didn't have the vocabulary of privilege or white privilege at the time, but, you know, thinking like, this is like mind blowing. Like, this is like a whole nother existence that I will never experience. You know?
I remember growing up having to have always, me and my buddies, we always made sure we had a white friend in the car, either driving or in the front seat with us, so the cops would leave us alone so we could just get to where we needed to go without being bothered.
Yeah.
Like, literally, keep you a white homie so you can know our car with you.
Can I say something about the angry Black narrative? Part of that narrative exists so people feel shame at their response. Your abuser hurts you, and then they're surprised that you're angry about it. Like, that's all part of the abuse and the gaslighting to create this narrative that like they're just angry people. And we need to keep that in mind. And like, to Phil's question earlier, like, how do we respond to things when things are feeling nasty towards us? Like, we all respond differently because we've all had different types of trauma, and every experience is different. I think that the most important thing to remember is that we shouldn't hold the shame for our responses. Like, we all have experiences that are hurtful and hard, and like, sometimes we do respond to things in a way that is emotional, and it's okay for us to feel that emotion. And like, especially now that we have BCC, we have somewhere to turn where people are like, yeah, that is messed up, and yeah, it is okay that you're angry, and yeah, it is okay that you want to cry right now. Like, a lot of us didn't have that, and like,
Right.
It does really help me feel sane, and I know it helps other people also feel sane. Like, we talked about gaslighting, like having people there that understand these little nuances and the microaggressions that we experience is a game changer for all of us to heal. Honestly, like, we can actually heal from our old trauma, our past trauma, and move forward in a much clearer way where our trauma isn't controlling us. And we do need to remember that a lot of these, we can't hold the shame of our abusers. That's not, we have to teach each other and hold each other so we don't do that anymore, because they're already hurting us. We don't also have to be like, and it's my responsibility the way I responded, and it's my fault that I did this, and like all the things that we put on top of ourselves to carry for them. Like, we have to, we're really lucky to have this organization. Yeah. Honestly, it's very special.
I agree completely. To change the subject, I want to ask a very random question. Do you all, outside of the founding members, you guys don't count, you all don't, but do you put BCC on your resume?
I do, absolutely. I mean, I really wanted to actually leave this industry so quickly into it, and until I found the BCC, or as I like to say, the BCC found me. I definitely just was like, hey, there's not really like a place for me here at all. And so, yeah, there's that. I definitely put it on my resume because it's a badge of honor for me. And we've really, like, in a short period of time, have made a name for ourselves. And like I definitely want everybody to know, like, hey, look, I am very politically active, even in this industry. And this is something that, you know, everybody should be paying attention to, is, you know, everybody in this organization, and what this organization is founded on, and the changes that we put forward.
don't, but I will now. I never thought about it. You just asked the question. But it is a dope thing to do, and I'm definitely changing mine after this call.
You definitely should.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it is. I mean, we're a legit organization. We're a 501c3, you guys. We're not just like I mean, granted, not that there's anything wrong with just people gathering, but we realized very early on, like first or second meeting, like, oh, in order to do and accomplish the things that we want to, we need this and this and this. And so being a legit organization was one of the very first things that we figured out and got together on and made happen with our own money to make that happen. So you are a part of a legit nonprofit. So definitely, like, not that it's you know, that any of you are trying to leverage anything, but this is a part of an organization that you built and that you continue to build. So you definitely should have it on your resumes.
Agreed. We put a lot of work into this organization. All of us do. Elle, especially. I love you so much. But you should for sure. This is like, I don't know. This is a really special organization, and the experiences that you're gaining here to have a voice and to communicate and have projects and build projects. This is all things you should include on your resume. You really like, it's like building a business. We're all building this business together. But it's not a business, it's an organization.
Well,
Good
businesses
question,
are
though.
people now, so it is a person.
What was that?
I said businesses are people now.
people.
They can donate to anything, so it is a person.
Yeah.
Can it vote? No?
Very pretty
Okay.
person.
Can it vote?
Oh, geez, if BCC could vote.
Yes,
Citizens United.
Pay enough money to
Right.
create a pack or whatever, you can vote. Definitely can.
I had
Or you could buy them.
I'm gonna bring it back to something we were talking about on our earlier call. We were just, workshopping. But I'm curious about Allie, like what you were talking about earlier, about being white indigenous and kind of how it shaped how you moved through the industry, and your experience has been like in industry and just in life,
Well, yeah.
I feel like, that's, an important thing for people to hear,
Well, first off, I'm going to say is that being a part of this organization, and just having kind of that general interest of like, hey, like, you are white indigenous and we want to know what your story is. And people have always in this organization have been willing to listen. I had a lot of fear and trepidation to, I guess, enter a space where like I can enter this space and feel great and accepted. And then I also, with my skin color privilege, can enter other spaces and kind of like almost like shape shift in a way, for lack of better terms, I suppose. Like this year, just given the year that we've been having and how we are the epicenter of a revolution here in Minneapolis, but then also just the way that I grew up, there was a lot of erasure of like my indigenous culture just from my white family. And I think it was very inadvertent, like they didn't realize what they were doing. So even just being a part of this group, I have been able to like step more into like my BIPOC identity more so than my white identity, and take a general interest in like my white earth Ojibwa like side. So I again, when I didn't think to even join this organization because one, like, look at me. And two, like I just, it just didn't even really cross my mind. And then it took Elle reaching out to me. I was working on my grandmother's campaign for tribal chair on White Earth Reservation. She didn't win, sadly. But I was working on that, and this was right before COVID hit. And then Elle reached out to me and was like, why haven't you joined us? And I was like, well, I don't think that I was allowed to because I'm so white looking. And she was like, no. She was like, and then to make me feel comfortable, but not only just to make me feel comfortable, but to address something that was important, she said, all right, next meeting, we're going to address BIPOC identities of white passing people and what that means. So basically, what I realized quickly, just given civil unrest and kind of stepping into my identity, is that I do have that skin color privilege, and I do have the ability to be the white buddy to the person of color, especially in situations like police officers or any kind of situation where there's a threat that is imposed on somebody of color. So I can utilize that. So again, I can kind of go back and forth in that identity. And I feel like I can do it more comfortably now because of all the support that I've received with the Brewing Change Collab. So
I support your double agent shit. I support you.
Yeah, double agent for sure. And I think it's been really, it's actually, it's made me have more of a general interest in that side of my family, not that I didn't before, but I also saw a lot of my family, a lot of my Native family, just this year starting to also step into their identities because of just Native culture and especially in my family, the last 60 years being brought down from the reservation into the city. There's a lot of assimilating into white culture that's been happening ever since mass genocide of Native Americans, and then the aftermath of that, hundreds of years ago when Native Americans were granted land and in the stipulation when they were granted land from white people was that they had to live like white people. And so I think a lot of in my family, it was you are granted this experience to be able to move to the city, but when you do, you have to kind of let go of some of your Native heritage. And so I have been not only myself, but have been experiencing a lot of my family stepping back into the culture. And never once, even in my family or here in this space, have I been singled out because of being white and Indigenous. And so I think that just makes me want to embrace that side of my culture more. And just to also throw this out there, I have, not that my family or anybody has really celebrated Thanksgiving because of what that, the holiday obviously is, it's rooted in genocide and colonization and all this stuff, but it's, up until this year, and obviously COVID has happened, my family, even the Native side, would celebrate it. And it was just a national day where family can get together because nobody is working that day, or, most people aren't working that day. And so this year is the first time that I'm wait, no, that's not a holiday that I celebrate. And I think that it's thanks to you guys, and I think it's thanks to the state of the world, civil unrest, and just kind of saying, look, just because we were told to celebrate this since the day we were born, Thanksgiving, we don't have to. We can actually do our own version of solidarity, or I can do my own version of solidarity with the Native people. So yeah, that's it. That's all I got, I think.
I think, I love it that, even for other, I mean, I'll speak for myself, as a BIPOC person, sometimes we get stuck in this scene, even, easily Native people, indigenous folks, you know, and like kind of just think about ourselves. Like me, I'm African American, so like I'd be lying if when I started, or you know, when we came together and my mindset was about like Black people, you know, only, not for any other reason, not because I don't like I have no, you know, bias or prejudice against other BIPOC folks, but just like, you know, my brain was just like, I'm looking for all the Black people,
you know your experience.
Right, you know, and like since we opened this group up, we've had other it's a real BIPOC, or it's like we need to use that term or whatever. Like you can't just say you know, Brewing Change is not just sort of the Black people. It's sort of like all, you know, people of color, and like even like having, you know, someone like yourself, Allie, like, you know, it has to like even change up our lens, you know, when we are like walking through the world, and you know, when you hear like, you know, this like Allie's you know, like this is, I'm just using your term, white indigenous, you know, person, like you're like, okay, cool, you know, like I you know, like, yes, come here, you're a part of the group, you know, you're a part of the family. And like even as we move through the world, you know, like I mean I remember like one of our treasurer who's not here tonight, like Kate, like I've known Kate forever. And when we started BCC, and it was like my white wife who was like, why don't you invite Kate to be in BCC? I was like, oh, okay, yes, like for sure. But like for whatever reason, like it never even occurred to me, you know. And it's like, you know, even for us, like having to, you know, kind of expand our lens on like, you know, the folks that because we want, you know, we want this group to be like, we want, you know, like we are a marginalized group of folks, and we come from different backgrounds, and I don't want to leave anybody out, you know.
That was a conversation we had very early, because I think both of us having a conversation with each other was like, where are the rest of the people who look like us? And then realizing like in casting that net that we caught other people, and we're like, wait,
right.
It doesn't make sense to be exclusionary on this. Like there are so few of us anyway. Why wouldn't we make this open? And
take my sea bass with some swordfish. That's cool.
We know that, Phil.
I don't know what that means.
And I think it's also.
I love some sea bass, and yeah, I love sea bass.
I'm fishing for sea bass.
Anyway. No, we're not going further down this fish trail.
I missed something there. I'm washed. I'm 37. I don't know things anymore. For real.
No. But yeah, it doesn't make sense to be exclusionary. It's because we've already felt that. We've already been excluded from an industry we're already in without any just cause. So it's like, why wouldn't we try to bring everybody together? Like, one, we're stronger together. Two, if we're feeling it, like, because a lot of people want to put their experience into like a jar of like, my marginalization is the most special, or the most horrific, or the most like influenced and you know, dangered.
Olympics. They call it oppression Olympics.
There you go.
I'm depressed. You're the most depressed. We're all oppressed.
Like, I've been the most hurt by white people. No, I have. It's like, what are we doing? We've all had this experience. We've all been excluded from something that we were already in. Like, we were already there, which also doesn't make sense. Like, we were already there and still actively being excluded from it. So it doesn't make sense to be like, my experience matters more than yours, and you were feeling the same things, just experiencing it differently. And like you said, like our treasurer Kate has a different experience definitely than we do, and Allie has a different experience than we do definitely, but we all have some shade of the same experience. So
and that's the thing, exactly what Anthony was talking about earlier with W.B. Du Bois, and just that double consciousness, right? That duality that you have, many identities that are kind of fighting against each other because of, again, how this country has intentionally pitted against those identities that only certain people hold at the end of the day. And Kate talked about the same thing. Calvin also talked about the same thing about feeling weird, you know, where he's also white passing, but his dad is Mexican at the end of the day. So it's
in the beginning of the day.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you're definitely not alone.
And I think that there's always there's been this battle of, especially between Black people and Indigenous people. And that's where the acronym BIPOC comes in, Black, Indigenous, People of Color. And what it comes down to is like, of course it's not like who's the more oppressed, population of people. But what it really does come down to is, if you look at it very factually, is that Black people in America were displaced from, like many different regions around the world, and brought here in, terms of slavery. And so were natives, and we experienced a lot of that. But what Native people in America, a lot of Native people have, is they have a tribe, they have an identity, they have something that they can lean into. So just to kind of, I guess, pose a counter argument, is that when you're looking at it, as far as like who is the most oppressed, oppressed people, not depressed,
we're not the winners, Phil.
It is Black people, because of the the lack of tribal support for Black people. And so it totally makes sense. And actually, I have a lot of angry Indigenous relatives, and I have a lot of angry Indigenous relatives that are like, well, we're more oppressed because, and I'm like here. And then you just paint it in that way where you go, okay, like, let's take a look at history. Another point to that too is, I just recently learned this when I was listening to the Black Wall Street podcast, is that it was before the abolishment of slavery. There was this period of time where, and it was only 5 nations, 5 indigenous nations that were granted this. But they were by white people. They were enslaved as well, and there was mass genocide. But to pay reparations to the Native Americans, they were told that, you will get a plot of land, and you will have all of these things, but you have to live and act like a white person. And so since the day they were born, they were conditioned in a way to view how a white person lives in a society hundreds of years ago, which was to keep slaves. So actually a really weird unknown fact is that Native Americans also kept Black people as slaves, but that was just like an extended oppression from white people, because it was forced from white people to the Native people to live like white people. So to live like white people, you keep Black people as slaves. So again, just to add to the argument, not saying that like the individual has different forms of oppression and it's not the Olympics and it's, it's not competing, but I think like history really does speak for itself as far as like the treatment of Black people versus Indigenous people in America. And at the end of the day, myself and my family members have a tribe to lean on, and a lot of like my Black friends are still learning like their lineage. And a lot of those DNA tests that you get are only like going to tell you where you're from in Europe or where you're from in certain areas, but then it'll just be like African generally. So I had a friend that is Black, and she took a DNA test and it came back and it was like, it said like more than half of her was white, and she's very dark. And she was like, no, I'm not white. What are you talking about? And then the DNA, like she wrote to them and they were like, we're sorry, there's just so much that we cannot trace as far as lineage goes. So that is another perspective.
For real, that's wrong.
For real. She better have got a coupon. A coupon and a discount code.
Give me that shit back.
Money back.
This is why I would never send into one of those things, because there's no chance. There is literally no chance.
I'm glad you just told me that story, because I've been like, I need to do that.
No, don't do it. It's not worth it. It's a waste of money.
There's literally no chance they would be able to do that.
Like, what?
You know what you're better off doing? You're better off using a passport if you have one. I'm not going to assume, but you're better off using that passport and traveling and seeing who, like, looking at a mirror image of yourself and being like, these is my people. These right here.
The thing is, I will tell you firsthand.
Bro,
I will tell you. They will tell you firsthand, though, having been to Africa and many countries in Africa in the same trip, that everybody is willing to take you as theirs because they're like, I see it in you. You're mine. You're like me. And then you'll go to a totally different country and be like, nope, you're with us. And I'm like, this is not helpful at all. This is not helpful.
That's so beautiful, though. Like,
it is beautiful, but it's also like not helpful.
Take me. Claim me, for real. Claim me.
Oh my gosh! Like I was in Uganda, I was in Nairobi, I was in all these places, and everybody's like, "Yeah, you like us." I'm like, maybe. I don't know.
I just want to say thank you to you guys too, just for giving me a safe space to speak and to rant and to, like, share my thoughts, because my biggest fear is that I, as an avid talker and like a white passing person, is that I sometimes I try to be as cognizant as possible to also know that I do have a privilege. And so I do have a privilege that some of you guys don't have. So I try to constantly check myself and make sure that I am quiet and allowing other voices to speak that are not mine, because again, I do feel wonderful in this space, but to kind of go on Ramsey's point, this is, the biggest issue right now is racism in America, especially against Black people. And I can't erase that. I can't interject in that. I want to I want to address that with you guys and listen to you guys and hear, your experiences and how I can be not just an ally, but also I guess a hybrid, an ally and a BIPOC member,
Family. You want to be family.
Mwah. I love you guys.
And that is important, because I don't want you to feel like you're not deserving of being here. And I know that, that has been a thing occasionally with some members when they jump in, or when I'm like, no, you could totally be a part of this group. They're like, oh, well, I'm not in the industry, or I'm not accepted, or I'm not Black enough, or I'm not I don't look like I belong to this organization. That is not the purpose of this organization. The purpose of this organization is not to quantify your ethnicity. It is not to judge you based on what your skin looks like. We are part of this community, not by merit of our skin color, but by our experiences. And that is important. And I don't want you to walk through this organization feeling as though you have to continue to qualify. You qualify because of who you are, and that's it. There is no other realm that you have to check boxes or continue to do. You can be an ally all you want to be, but you're also a part of this community full out on your own. So that you don't have to work for it. It's not something that you have to worry about doing. This is family. This is what this organization does. And we all have different experiences. We all have, different upbringings and different ways that we found our way here. And I also want to qualify, each one of us found our own way here. And that was a large part of what, people would constantly, throw me in an interview or ask me questions about, how did you get here? Or what was your road to this? And I'm I've freaking found my way here. I followed a passion and I got myself here. Nobody waved a flag at me and said, oh, come over here, we'll help you along. I made my own path here. And we all did that. We all found within ourselves our own qualities or skills or whatever and passion that led us to this industry. and nobody had to like help us up.
Mm-hmm.
We, as people of color, have vast amounts of experience in helping our own selves up. So we got here, by our own straps, which are significantly shorter, frayed, and being cut in half as we're trying to tie them. So
They cut your fingers too.
Yeah, we found our own way here. We are here by our own merit, and not because somebody else like let us in or checked a box or gave us scholarship or made a way for us or whatever. We got here because of our passion and our skill and our proficiency, and because of who we are. We are not qualifying for anything. We are qualified. We're here. That's it.
There's also the beautiful thing about this organization too is that you don't always have to be right. We are all learning, and we're all growing, and we're all learning from each other. And we're all big mouth people that are willing to say like, no, that's not okay. What you did isn't okay. What you said isn't okay. Because we're family. And that's something that is so special about this organization, is that it is very diverse. We are such a diverse group, and all of us are willing to learn from each other and learn from each other's hurt and each other's traumas, which makes us all stronger and makes us all heal from our own pain as well, and shows us how we all really are united in some way. So please don't ever feel like you're on eggshells here, because like if you say something that's wrong, one of us will correct you, and like just know that we're not here to hurt. It's not in a hurtful way. We're just here to like let you know that like maybe this isn't the right thing to say or whatever. But we've had many conversations already about sexism, homophobia, Islamophobia, racism, all of it, because we're all human. So that is like probably my favorite thing about this organization. It's the only place I've ever experienced this where like we get to make mistakes and we're not canceled. We get to learn and we get to grow together. And that is so different than what society teaches us to do to each other.
Right.
Also, I think that we really try to reward and celebrate our intersectionality. Like we're not one-dimensional either. Like we all, you know, we have vast amounts of complexity within ourselves. So rewarding and celebrating that those facts are also important. Like, you know, it's not one factor that you're here. It's by the entire person of who you are.
And I would say a lot of that insecurity, or just that totally, like all of my like insecurity is about my, you know, like being in this group, just come from me. You know, it's all internal. It's nothing that anybody in this organization has ever made me feel. Like nobody in this organization has ever made me feel like I didn't have a place here. It all just kind of came from me, you know, and having to work through that as far as kind of having like identity issues. And then just realizing that I do have these identity issues and I never really have like fit into a mold of either being Native or being white. Like it never really felt like I had a place in either cultures. And so it's not anything that anybody in this organization has ever done, because I've been welcomed with open arms and then some, and have gotten so much out of my experience with the BCC. So just want to throw that out there too.
Yeah. I also think that there is literally no easier time to own who you are than when it's being threatened. So I feel like we have probably all this year, especially in our own ways, come up in like realizing who we are, what that means to us, and how we're going to move forward in that. It's like we've all, in one way or another, have had our identity, some form of our identity threatened, and it's kind of a breaking point, right? Like you either decide like, oh, I'm going to shed that so that I don't have to go through that persecution or that oppression or whatever, or you come up into it in a way of like, this is who I am. I will not be like oppressed in this way because you're attacking the essence of who I am. So I also think that's helpful for this organization, that we stand with each other And a lot of instances that, you know, BCC as an organization has had to stand up for one or multiple members, or all of us as a whole, because we will not let family go through fire alone. So,
yes.
I have a question. As a member, and I would like to hear from everyone if possible. I know we got a lot to get through, but as a member of Brewing Change in whatever role or capacity you serve in, what is your biggest goal, either as an individual or for the group as a whole? Outside of the mission, what is something that you want to see the organization accomplish?
Allie, you want to go first?
oh, I don't know. It's a big question. I feel like I'll still be talking if I go first.
Okay.
Yeah,
Let's
leave me to
limit
last.
it to 1 minute each.
Let me go last.
Okay, I'll go. I think for me, it's always trying to create a space that is safe for people. Always is always my mission, always. And I think that we do that pretty well with BCC. And we're still learning and growing, but I think we do a pretty good job of like creating a safe space for people to be themselves and like a safe environment to learn and grow. That's always going to be my mission. Ramsey?
Victim when he's not on camera. He's probably over there sneezing.
Now, Ramsey.
Mahat, you go.
My mission is to probably post-COVID to get everyone to go winter camping. So that's my one mission. I'm planning on doing. No.
Okay, buddy. I would love to see for us to have our own brewery, honestly. A BCC brewery or co-op or something of that manner, where we're all invested, we're all giving back to the community, and we're helping others to get back and to pay it forward. That was something I would love to see.
That's a good
2021 or two.
Yes, I want to see that as well. I want to see, you know, something of our own creation, but also like other BIPOC folks come in the industry and create also more breweries or more distilleries, wineries, cideries, whatever that may be. And hopefully like we can help facilitate that, you know, help, you know, use our resources and energy to help those things along, and maybe even provide some of the inspiration for those things, you know. So like a lot of it, you know, for me, like being 10 years long in this industry, a lot of it was like I spent so much time like doubting my own abilities because I never saw anybody else, you know, that looked like me doing, you know, more than, or not anything really for the most part, but definitely not owning a business in you know, craft beer, distillery, winery industries in Minnesota in particular, and not even like having the sense to even look outwards where there are other people who do that, but not many. But I just want to see more BIPOC folks owning, like I just want to see more of us own things, you know, more BIPOC folks like owning and like being able to enjoy, you know, like it's not, you know, it's like building wealth, you know, like having something to pass down to our children and our children's children, whatever that may be. But, you know, like having something and not just like being reliant on other people to, you know, make our way, you know, so we can like have some power in this industry where we can make decisions that are meaningful and lasting, you know, instead of like having to always be someone's employee, you know. So those are the things that I hope for the future of this organization.
I agree with Ramsey a lot as far as the goals go, because again, you guys looked at an empty hole that most people trip over and get mad that they broke their big toe on, but y'all decided, oh, let's make something here. And from that foundation that y'all developed, I would look at all right, look at Young Money, Cash Money. All right, not my favorite artist personally, but look at Drake, look at Nicki Minaj, and they came up with Lil Wayne. He put them on. I just want to be able to just put people on, like, hey, yo, look, you can be over here, bro. It's okay. You're allowed in here. Come on, get up in here. Let's create something together. Let me show you how to do it. You like it? Cool. Go do it yourself now. I gave you the tools. And then basically just that thing you like even the Mickey Mouse Club, like, oh, just less corny, far less corny. Look at, you can trace a bunch of people to that catalyst that started it, and you can just run it back and like, look what they're doing now. You know what I mean? Drake, I would love to. I just want to continue that. I want that to happen for myself. I want that to happen for my man Mahad. I want it to happen for Shantae. I want it to happen for Anthony. I want it to happen for Ali. I want it to happen for Calvin. Everybody in BCC. I want us all to be able to just look back and be bosses and just be like Rick Ross and be like, yeah, I remember the days. Remember when we was on the Zoom call? I want to just be able to say that. Like I want BCC to have, when we come in and we walk in rooms, and when BCC is going to be in the building, we bring that pressure because people know what we do, what we're about, and what we did, and what we continue to do is we lay our feet on the ground, we put our 10 toes to the pavement, and we create opportunities. I just want to be a part of that, and I want to continue to just be the building. I want to be that, I want to do that with y'all. I see it. I see the vision is real. So it's a matter of pressing forward and continuing. That's the goal. Like, yeah, let's go. Let's do it. Yeah, again, like Ramsey, you and I, see a lot eye to eye on that. Yeah, just inspiring people to do other stuff in the same fashion, just in maybe a different industry. And I think that would be pretty cool, man. Like, so what'd you start? Oh, man, these guys at BCC, man, it was real nice to me. I come to the meetings and we drink beer. I didn't know I liked Scotch ales. I love them. I like Belgians. Thank you, Elle. Wow.
What I want to see with the BCC is not only to leverage like our voice with these breweries here, because we have 180 plus breweries in the state, and continuing to grow like that allyship, the things that we've been doing with like Broken Clock, continuing to have meetings and like asking them the hard questions of like, how do you plan to be an ally just beyond making like a Black is Beautiful beer, and continuing to like question that status quo. But then to kind of piggyback off of what Ramsey and Phil had to say was that, and this is just an idea that I've had probably for the last couple of weeks, and now I'm just going to propose it here during the summit, is that what if we started a cooperative bottle shop, like a cooperative liquor store? We know it's essential. It's an essential business, and, we're making all of these connections in this industry. And I think about, like job security. We don't know where COVID's going, that kind of stuff, like how could some of the members form together and like open something like that? Because there is money in liquor stores. And like, how could we then like take that money and like, not only like pay fair wages and like, create like, entrepreneurship opportunities for BIPOC people in this industry, but how could we also then, like take it a step further and really like lean on the activism part of it and, say like, this is who we support, and this is like who supports us. And this is like the true allies. So come to this bottle shop and buy this shit because that we're only bringing in things ethically. And it may just be because I started working at a liquor store a few months ago, but also just from that perspective, I'm like, oh, well, that makes sense because I lost my job in COVID because I'm not a sales rep anymore. I'm not packing restaurants full of people because we can't. I'm not having liquor store samplings because we can't. And so thinking of like kind of like the next wave of success and impenetrable businesses, as far as, you know, how we can really like, you know, like make sure that it's like a big iron wall that can't be brought down even by a pandemic, because at the end of the day, everybody still wants to drink.
True.
So, yep. And sorry, just to like spring it on you guys. I've been sitting on this idea for a few weeks. Sorry to spring it on you guys during this summit, but I guess now is the time, right?
This is a conversation. That's
yeah. Yeah, just be like, this was my idea, but I have to
it's
bring
recorded.
it forward. Yeah, now you guys have it. It's out there and it's there. So
someone in Brazil might want to do the same thing, and you know, you gave them an idea.
Hell yeah.
You know, so you know, whatever, do it.
Good to share ideas, and that's also on this point is BCC. Anytime I have like a harebrained idea, like it's always a place where I can like bring something up and have it like not only like have people say yes and like come at it with enthusiasm, but then come at it with like additional ideas and growing on that and challenging the idea. Like that's what I love, is that we're all so driven in that way, and that's why we're here.
Mm-hmm. Shante.
I would like, because I think Brewing Change Collaborative already does a great idea of creating a safe space for people that are of all spectrums and, you know, within any type of marginalization. But I want Black people to think that beer is cool. I would like for Brewing Change to kind of piggyback on what other people have said, to influence other people of color within their communities, to be inspired, to be like, you know what, this is what I want to do. I want to make art for beer cans, or I want to see my art, you know what I'm saying, in a tap room, or I want to create my own tap room. I want Black people and other people, Indigenous or other people of color, I want them to realize that that's something that they can do. That's honestly my biggest goal. And also I want us to see ourselves outside of such traditional career paths. Being involved in something like this is really like opening my eyes to like how many other outlets you have for success within any industry, and especially the beverage industry, because we input so much of our, you know, economics and our funds into it, that we might as well learn how to make ourselves you know, beneficiaries of something that we utilize so much. So I would like us to really like get involved into all of the aspects of the industry in that way, because I think that's part of why BCC is here, is to realize that this space can be for us and that we should involve ourselves as much as possible. So that's my biggest goal as an individual and a member of this group.
Nice. Did I miss anybody?
Just you.
I think that when we started this thing, I think overall my goal hasn't strayed like a whole lot. And it's a big goal though, because what I want is for us not to be a rarity. What I want is for us not to be an anomaly or something that gets a lot of attention because of what we do. I want us to be commonplace. I want us to be something that is everywhere for everyone. I want for the industry not to see me or Ramsey or Allie or Mahad or any of us as a unicorn. I want the doors to be wide open. I want to not be the only Black beer rep or spirits rep or wine rep or literally the only Black person in Minnesota selling any type of booze. I want that to not be who I am. I never wanted to be that. I didn't take the job because I was like, I want to be the only person doing it. I did it because I care about it and because I like it, and it's an industry that I love. And like Chris Montana is always saying, he's like, I didn't start the distillery to be the first Black distillery owner, the fact that that's the truth is kind of disappointing, actually. Like, it's not a title that we're trying to hold. So I want the doors to be open. I want for the door that I walk through to stay wide open so somebody else can come behind me and come through it too. I want for all of us to have that opportunity to bring other people to this, not because it's like, oh, beer is so lucrative, but because there should literally not be an industry that we're not allowed or a part of, or, you know, exercising our creativity and our power in. There shouldn't be a barrier there. Like, it's not like, oh, this is going to make me as rich as a doctor. It for sure will not. Beer is not going to make anybody rich, but it can make you happy. Cider, wine, spirits, the whole industry is built off of community. It's built off of coming together. And there shouldn't be any barriers to that, regardless of what the industry is. So my overall goal has been and continues to be not so special, not so unique, not so ironic, or not something that garners a lot of attention. I want us to be an organization that there is one of us is as a whole, as an organization, in every major city across the country and across the world. I want for there to be multiple people selling booze. I want there to be multiple people selling beer. I want there to be multiple. I don't ever want somebody to walk into any place and have somebody go, what are you doing here? Or how did you get here? I want that to stop. So I want us to take over and populate the earth. This is essentially what I want. I want us and our culture and our beauty and the way that we think and the way we exercise our creativity. I want that to permeate every area of this industry, and for it not to be so unique.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Thanks. All right. All right. So we are Brewing Change Collaborative, BCC, hashtags BCC, Brewing Change MN. We are at Brewing Change MN. That's my handle up there. It's also Maha's handle up there. Ramsey's is his handle. We've all got intermingles our own personal things. Also, our website is undergoing some transformation, but in the coming few weeks, brewingchangecollaborative.org will look a little bit more fancy and a lot more official, which is exciting. And of course, we are a nonprofit organization, 501c3, so we do accept donations, but also are doing a lot of big things this year, as we've just appointed a bunch of people to our board, and we are planning to do big things 2021, even though we've already done a lot of big things since 2019. The fact that we're here now talking about this organization in this light and talking on like web whatever to Brazil is something I never imagined, and I'm super excited about it. And I hope that anybody watching this has enjoyed it and has been able to connect and relate or learn something new. And I speak for, I'm sure, the whole organization, including the people who are not on this call, that we are honored to have been a part of this. And we look forward to being able to do it again and see you in person in Brazil.
Yes.
In Brazil.